Cool. First, 303 short. I'm sorry, I'm still sick. I mentioned that in my last video, but I'm working on it. For this video, I'm probably going to talk about the UFC's bantamweight division, or more in particular, the two interesting fights that are happening very soon. I'll probably talk about the most interesting of the two first, at least in my opinion. Rafael Assunção versus Marlon Moraes 2. I feel like it's a better fight to be made than the one that was just announced today, which was Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munoz. It's pretty a clear title contention fight, with Rafael Assunção being ranked number 3 and Marlon Moraes number 4. But it's most notable because it's the second match. They've already fought before, but not without its share of controversy. It ended in a split decision. I personally thought that Marlon Moraes won the fight, and I think a lot of people saw it that way too. Obviously, it was a split decision, so one judge scored it for Moraes and 2 for Assunção, but the last judge, I don't know what he was watching, but it clearly was not the fight, because Rafael Assunção did not win all 3 rounds. That is for sure. And that judge scored it a 30-27, which is a little bit ridiculous. Also, Assunção landed 3 low blows in the fight, 1 per round, I believe, which is kind of a little bit of a sting on that win. I think Marlon Moraes, even though it was his UFC debut against the number 3 guy, did amazing and actually won that fight. But it was ruled a loss. And since then, Marlon Moraes has gone on to win a split decision to John Dodson. He has won a first-round KO via knee against Aljamain Sterling, and then just recently in 2018 knocked out Jimmy Rivera with a head kick and punches in round 1, within the first 30 seconds of round 1. He's clearly been on a tear. I did not think that he needed to prove anything before he should challenge for the title, but clearly Sean Shelby and Dana White saw otherwise, and they matched him up against Rafael Assunção again, the last guy to beat him. But Rafael Assunção is 36 years old. He's on a win streak, but one was a not so impressive decision against Rob Font. He looked good, but he didn't look great. And then he KO'd Matthew Lopez in the 3rd round. To be honest, I don't even know who that is. I don't think that win really counts. I don't think that guy's in the top 15 anymore either. And before his controversial win to Marlon, he had just beaten Aljamain Sterling via split decision. Someone who Marlon Moraes starched in the first 30 seconds of their fight, or in the first minute of their fight. I think 1 minute and 7 seconds in. And before then, he's beat Pedro Munoz via decision, Brian Caraway via decision, split decision, TJ Dillashaw, but Dillashaw later won that fight in their rematch in July of 2016. So I don't. There's not too much to say about it. I think it shouldn't have been made, but I think there's a pretty clear difference between the Marlon that fought in his UFC debut against Assunção and the Marlon that has starched his last two competitors and looked good against Dodson in that split decision win. I think he's gonna win that fight, and that fight is fair enough to be made. But the fight that was really ridiculous that was made was Pedro Munoz versus Cody Garbrandt. His last win coming from a TKO via body kick and punches in round 1 against Brian Caraway, but Brian Caraway is not in the top 15 anymore. Prior to that, he won a unanimous decision to Brett Johns. I thought he looked pretty good in that fight. Nothing that really showed he was a threat to any of the top contenders, but except for maybe his chokes. He looked very good on the ground. And before that, he lost a split decision to John Dodson. I think if you lose to John Dodson, it's going to be very hard for you to make your way into that top 5. TJ Dillashaw being that exception in this division. But Pedro Munoz, I don't think really deserved the shot at Cody, nor do I think he's going to beat Cody. Cody was undefeated until his 2 back-to-back losses to Dillashaw, and I mean, he beat Dominic Cruz, Takeo Mizugaki, Thomas Almeida, Augusto Mendez, Marcus Brimage, all of those names coming by knockout, most of them first round, 1 third round, then 1 decision to Dominic Cruz, but it's unanimous. I think that fight's not really fair. It's kind of ridiculous that it was made. Cody Garbrandt, I think, should starch him. I think Marlon Moraes is going to beat Assunção and then challenge TJ Dillashaw for the title. after he goes down to challenge Henry Cejudo for his belt. And I think Cody Garbrandt has to bank on Marlon Moraes to beat Dillashaw for him to get another title shot. But yeah, that's been my 5-minute short on the UFC Bantamweight division. This is the 303 podcast, and thank you for watching.